I never thought I would ever sign up to a marathon. I did my first ever race, which was a 10K. When I got that medal and crossed that line, I was like, oh, I want to do more.
The way you described your chair, or what it could be, it can be an anchor or it can be wings.
The anchor part is it can weigh you down, or it can be your wings and you can fly. You can get up every day, you can do something. That's why I show the bad times and to where I am now, because I made it out, and hopefully that can inspire someone else that's in the same situation. I'm Poppy May, also known as Poppy May Fitness on Instagram and all socials. I am a wheelchair athlete, 24 years old, take part in so many races. Started with a 10K and then ended up doing London Marathon last year, and I just I'm addicted to it now, to be honest with you. And I do fitness about five times a week in the gym, and upload my fitness routines onto social media to inspire as many people as possible.
All right, there's so much that I want to cover here, Poppy, but I want to start with something that I saw on your Instagram, and I think it's a really nice place to start. And it's the way you described your chair, or what it could be. It was it can be an anchor or it can be wings, and I really like that because I think it really makes you kind of think about the whole journey that you must have been through. But from your perspective, kind of break down that phrase for me.
Yeah, so I guess the idea came from the anchor part. Is it can weigh you down, it can, potentially take what I thought my life was over at that point. And you could just sit in it could just weigh you down, and you're not going anywhere and doing anything with your life, despite that your life has obviously changed dramatically. Or it can be your wings and you can fly, in the sense of you can get up every day, you can do something, you can get out, get into the fresh air. Obviously for myself, do races and gym, and not let it weigh you down, not let it define who you are as a person, because it's so much more than that.
Did you struggle with that? Did you just struggle with the kind of the definition of it? Like you say, you didn't want it to define you.
100%. For the first 6 months after becoming disabled, I locked myself away and I didn't want to talk to anyone or do anything. Like, I was a very active person before. I would go out and I'd do family days and stuff, and I basically was like, no, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to be pushed around like a baby, because at the time the wheelchair that I had wasn't suitable and I wasn't able to push it because it was just too heavy. So I was like, no, I'm just going to stay in my bedroom. I'm not doing anything. I don't want to see anyone. I don't want to see my friends. I just locked myself away, to be honest.
For people that don't know, can you just explain what happened to lead you to being in a wheelchair full time?
So with my disability, mine's very different to everyone else's out there. I was 17 years old when I ended up in a wheelchair, and it was a case of I literally woke up one day with really severe back pain that developed into basically complete paralysis from my waist down to my toes. And so one day I was, able to run around, do whatever I wanted, to the next literally collapsing onto a sofa, not being able to feel or move half of my body. Obviously taken to hospital, had every test possible, for them to turn around and say it's in your head. And then we're here 7.5 years later and nothing's changed. Unfortunately, about 4 years ago, I was discharged from the service that was helping me, because there's nothing else they can do for me. So it's just had to accept it, really. I could walk again one day, but at the same time, I'm quite happy where I am at the moment.
And it must be very difficult when you are told that, from a medical professional, to accept that is very different to if something has happened, like if you've been in a car accident or or something like that, that is very like point blank, right? You're having to accept something that you know in your head is right. However,
Yeah.
it's almost being told to you that it's not. Like, how do you deal with that?
Do you know, it was so frustrating. Like being told this is in your head when you can't move half of your body, you can't feel half of your body. It's so frustrating at the time. Like they told me, oh, it's, in your head. And I didn't want to believe them. And to be honest, I still don't believe them. Still believe there was a misdiagnosis somewhere along there. But because I can't afford private, I would never know. But yeah, so frustrating. Like I'd love to be able to stand up, but apparently it's in my head. I don't have the ability to stand up anymore. I don't have the ability to walk anymore. And they were just saying it's in your head, it's in your head. And it's like, how can you say that to someone when you're trying and trying and trying? It's so frustrating, so frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine so. And I can imagine it's really difficult to then kind of rationalize that in your own head, because I would imagine there's moments where you have doubted it. Maybe you have thought, right, is this in my own head? Like I can't quite
Yeah.
work out. I can't quite work out why this is happening. Is that something you struggle with?
Yeah, 100%. So one of the, I guess one of the treatment plans when I was diagnosed with the condition FND, one of the treatment plans was to be sent to a neuro rehabilitation centre where you basically do physio, you do psychology, and you do OT pretty much every day, residential. And you stay there for about 3 months. And I met probably about 20 other different patients with the same condition, and we all joined the program around the same time. 3 months after, obviously everyone's getting to the point of discharge, and I have met patients that have been in there paralyzed from the neck down, unable to speak for themselves, like really bad speech problems. And they've walked out of that hospital. They haven't needed a wheelchair, crutches, nothing. They could sprint on a treadmill. I was the only patient in that rehabilitation centre that never actually got to step foot outside of that hospital. Like I wheeled in that hospital and I thought I was going to walk out, but unfortunately that never happened. And that was really hard to accept.
So is there still, and forgive my ignorance here, obviously, because I've not talked to anybody like yourself before. Like, is there still hope that maybe one day that you could walk again?
There is 100%, but it's just kind of like, you don't know when and why. And, it could just literally all come back tomorrow. That's what
Okay.
I've been told. But then the way I also see it is if it would come back, say, for example, tomorrow, why hasn't it done that in 7.5 years that I've been in a wheelchair for? That's the way I kind of see it. And I know that's a bad kind of mindset to have, but that's just the way I've kind of accepted it. Like if something was going to truly happen majorly, it would have happened by now.
Mm. And I guess it's almost harder to rationalize yourself because it's the hope that is difficult, isn't it? It's the hope that, yeah, maybe you will one day have that. Whereas if there was some sort of traumatic injury and you knew that was never going to be an option, like that I guess becomes, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because you always want the hope, but at the same time, the hope can be the hardest thing.
100%. 100%. Like when I came out of that rehab center, because when I went in there, I had this hope and idea that I was going to be walking out that hospital. I wasn't ever going to need the wheelchair again. I was going to be back to my usual self before I became disabled. And obviously that never happened. But the whole time I held on to that hope and that never happened. So it was almost like I was living with this false hope. And then the moment I came out of the rehab center, that's kind of when my mental health really badly declined. And there was really, really severe depression, attempts to take my own life because I couldn't accept that this was the new me, I guess. So yeah, 100%. Hope is so powerful, but in that moment, it was hope that, like I say, it was hope that was getting me through that rehab center. But by the end of it, I'd lost that hope. And that was really hard to accept.
What was that journey to acceptance like? Because I know you've spoken about it on your socials as well. Like, as you say, that period of your life was incredibly difficult. Getting to a
Yeah.
point of acceptance, what did that journey look like?
I think it was once was through like my mental health, once I'd started becoming stable again, I found races. And I think from then on, that was kind of like finding my purpose and why I still wanted to be here. And then I obviously started building my platform on social media. And when I first joined the gym about 4 years ago, I was the only wheelchair user in the entire gym. And I still am to this day, the only wheelchair user in that gym. And I guess back then, I would have loved to have a role model to look up to on Instagram, to find someone who was doing workouts in their wheelchair, and there was nothing. So I guess that's where the idea came from for me to start my own platform, to do the workouts in the wheelchair, to adapt certain exercises and film it and hopefully inspire more disabled people to get active.
Yeah, and you're definitely doing that with your page that's growing and growing and growing, and that's got to be something that you're super proud of, I'm sure, because as you say,
Wow.
looking up to people is so important, and having that, it's another way of having that hope, isn't it? Like, I can do this, I can still do this
Yeah.
despite my disability. Have you seen that? Have you seen people now coming to you and saying like, thank you for helping me believe in myself almost?
Yeah, 100%. So I've had certain people that have followed me kind of from the start, from when I've started the social media posts around disability and fitness. When I did the London Marathon last year, obviously I put loads of posts about that because that was like a huge milestone for me. And I actually inspired a few people to take on their first 5K. And one particular girl was inspired to take on the London Marathon herself, despite she'd never done a 5K in her wheelchair, let alone a marathon. And she completed it this year. And that was a big moment for me. The fact that, you've seen me complete it, and you've never, never done a 5K or anything in your wheelchair. And you're like, no, I want to do a marathon now. And she can do it, I can do it. And that's what I've always wanted since I started my page.
Yeah, and it's hugely inspirational for so many people. Let's talk about the London Marathon, because we've mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm sure that was a massive, massive moment, and almost a culmination of like that journey of, as you've quite rightly said, races basically saving you, right? Like, it must have felt
Yeah.
an amazing thing to do, and also then reflect back on where you had come from.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I never thought I would ever sign up to a marathon. Like, even before I was able-bodied, the thought of a marathon was like, no, absolutely not. It all started from, I did my first ever race, which was a 10K. It was the Run Gatwick in 2023, I believe. And it was from that, when I got that medal and crossed that line, I was like, oh, I want to do more. I want to do more. And I was looking into the London Marathon at the time. I put my ballot in, and unfortunately I didn't get in. However, Scope contacted me, the Disability Equality charity, and they said, we'd love to give you a space. And I was like, amazing, like, let's do it. And then obviously I had to fundraise this certain amount of money, which was fine. That was no problem. But then, I was literally training for a marathon in a wheelchair, which was not easy. I can't lie, it was not easy, because usually, obviously, able-bodied people can go out, they can run on the streets, they can run on the pavements, they can do trail runs. I didn't have that ability. I was picking up punches, uneven surfaces on the pavement, potholes, the lot. It was just not suitable. So most of it was done in the gym on the ski erg and the assault bike with the arms.
Yeah, so talk us through that, because obviously marathon training will be very different for you than it would be for, as you say, somebody that is able-bodied running on the pavements or doing some trail runs. Or there's a lot of different things that I would imagine that you have to consider.
Yeah.
Talk us through some of them and how it is different.
So when I first started, I've got a little attachment for the front of my chair, and it's like an extra wheel, and it lifts the two smaller wheels up so you can kind of go off-roading. So originally, when I started training for the London Marathon, I was using that and going out on wheelchair runs, I call them, going out and about on pavements, and I had no problems. But that's when I started noticing the foot plate started cracking.
Okay.
I had to keep getting it welded because there was so much pressure going through that front wheel from every little pothole, crack, everything. It was breaking the chair. So I got to a point where I was like, I can't do it out and about. So I spoke to my coach at the time and I said, what am I meant to do? And he was like, how about you just do it in the gym? So there was one particular moment, I will never forget this one. I had 25K to do on the training plan. And I was like, well, I can't go out and about and do it. So I said to my coach, what am I meant to do? He's like, you can do it on the ski erg. I was like, 25K on the ski erg. And said, yeah, you can do it. So I had to download 2 films, set it up on my tripod, and I was on that ski erg for over 3 hours and 14 minutes, just constantly going like this for 25K. People were coming into the gym, training, doing their full session, leaving, and I'm still on the ski erg. It was brutal.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it sounds that anybody that's been on a ski erg for, 2 minutes is going to understand
Yeah.
quite how difficult that is. So I can't imagine what it's like for 25K. In terms of the muscles that you're using, right? Like there must be massive fatigue because they're not massive muscles. You're working like a much smaller system of muscles realistically than if you were using the muscles in your legs. So like that training must be absolutely brutal. How did that feel getting to the London Marathon? And was there injuries? Was there a lot of fatigue? Like talk to me about the actual training process.
So with the when I was training for the London Marathon, I kept picking up sprained wrists quite often. And that was just a case of ice packs and rest and then go back to it. The thing is with me, I don't really listen to my body as much, especially when I was training for the London Marathon. I think that's just because I was just so excited to do a marathon. But the day after the London Marathon was a very interesting day because obviously I can't use half of my body anyway. So, and I'm having to use my upper body to move my lower body for when I'm transferring, say, for example, to the bed or the sofa. And I was not really able to use my upper body as well as my lower body because my upper body was just gone the next day. So, yeah, it was a very interesting few days. It was just constant stretching, yoga, everything possible because I really struggled to move that day. Even pushing the wheelchair just around the house was really difficult.
I've seen some videos of you in London. I think if people want to go and see some, they should head to your social platforms. I'll put the links in the bio of this. And there's a particular one of you going over London Bridge that I saw, and you're literally beaming, like looking around. And I think a lot of people have that feeling when they do London. But for you, what was the support like out on course? Did you feel the love?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I was actually annoyed at myself because I feel like I could have done it slower. And I know that sounds really crazy because so many people were like, oh, I want to get a PB, it's a marathon. But I feel like I didn't take it in as much. Like 100% I enjoyed the atmosphere and the vibes. But I feel like if I did it a little bit slower, I would have taken more in and enjoyed myself even more. Because when I got to the end, I wanted to do it again. I was like, I want to go back. I want to experience it more. But obviously I didn't get the chance to do that. However, I do have a space for next year. So I'm doing it again. And I'm going to make sure I do it slower this time so I can take it more in and just feel the atmosphere more.
And I think that's so important for anybody listening to this that has got their own goal. Like, that enjoyment piece is so important. You should definitely just evaluate what is important when it comes to a race. And I know we've mentioned that quite a lot on the podcast recently, but I think that's an important thing to kind of think about. I want to go back a little bit to Run Gatwick, because you mentioned that was your first event. What got you to that? Like, we've talked about racing being that kind of catalyst to moving forward with life and moving forward in a positive way. But to even get to that moment, like, why did you decide to enter? Was there a reason behind that?
So what happened is I was just casually going to the gym almost every day, and I bumped into another wheelchair user. His name's Rob. And he was the one who basically said, "Are you doing the 10K?" And I was like, no, I'm not doing no 10K. I was like, I wouldn't even do it when I was able-bodied, let alone now. It's not happening. And he's like, "Oh, come on, we'll do it together. Like, we can dress up." I was like, you're still not convincing me, but it took him a while to convince me. And then I finally signed up, and that was my first one. And he took me around the course. Although towards the end, I did get very competitive and I overtook him. So I finished before him, despite us saying we was going to finish together. It was just this adrenaline rush. And so, yeah, it just started from there, really. And then from then on, I found RunThrough. And then I started joining races up in London. I think I did one of the Battersea Chase the Moon 10Ks. And then I was just signing up to loads and loads of different races. It started with 10Ks, and then it was a half marathon, which I didn't train for, which I don't recommend, because it was the middle of December. It was a stormy day, like it was an actual thunderstorm. And I was out on the Goodwood racecourse doing a half marathon with zero training. But yeah, I just started from the 10K, the Run Gatwick.
I want to touch on your family and friends as well, because, it's obviously a massive change to your life, the biggest change, but to them as well, it must have been a massive change overnight too. So, for them to now see you in a very happy place must be incredibly positive. However,
Yeah.
it's taken you a while to get to this place. So that journey from, the day that you found out that you were going to be a wheelchair user to now, what has that been like with your relationship with your family?
Oh, I don't even know what to say about that. It's been a rocky relationship. There was moments where I was in a psychiatric hospital because I was deemed to not be safe in the community. And my mum, she kind of, because she had to deal with the situations that happened at home, and every time I was unstable and trying to harm myself in a particular way, she would be the one who had to pick up all the pieces and things. And it got to a point where, as I say, I was sectioned in a hospital, and she basically said to the hospital, "I don't want her home." And I basically had to fill out forms and stuff and classify myself as potentially homeless. Because I guess she just got to a breaking point. She couldn't take it anymore. She didn't want that on her hands anymore. And there was also another point where I completely lost touch with all my family. Because one of the ways that I dealt with my mental health, which was a very toxic way, is I drove myself to drugs and alcohol. And from that, basically my family were like, we don't want to be in contact with you. So I couldn't see my little sister for a long time. Obviously wasn't talking to them for a long time until I got myself in a stable situation. And then I had to, once I became stable and they could see that this was an ongoing thing and I was in recovery, that's when I started to build the relationship back up again with my parents. So yeah, it was a rocky one.
And where are you at now?
Oh, we're absolutely amazing now. Like, absolutely amazing. As close as anything, if not closer than we were before. Um, and I'm so grateful to have that relationship again. Because like I say, it was really rough for such a long time. I was called selfish multiple times by different family members when I was trying to, harm myself or if I was sectioned in hospital. Um, but obviously when you're in that mindset, it's not you're not being selfish, like you're just trying to find a way out. Um, but yeah, I don't know, that was one of the hardest things through the mental health stage was the touch that I had with my family because it wasn't that strong anymore. So that was hard, yeah.
How did you how did you find your way out of that place? Because you just referred to it then as a stage, and I would imagine now looking at your life, it is probably quite quite easy for you to probably categorize things into like this happened then, this happened then, this happened then. But you know, it is a massive part of your life. So how did you manage to move out of, as you said, that stage?
It all came down to the last time I was admitted into psychiatric hospital. It was through smoking cannabis, having an eating disorder at the same time as borderline anorexic, and also drinking alcohol. And all of those combined got me sectioned, unfortunately. And I think when I was in the hospital, it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It's really hard to explain. It was just like, I don't want to keep being in and out of these hospitals. I don't want to keep going to A&E. I don't want to keep being with the police for my mental health. I don't want all the paramedics to know me because of my mental health. Like, I don't want this for me anymore. Um, obviously then started building the relationship back up with my parents and my family. I was still under services at the time, but I discharged myself from services because I realized that they were just kind of reminding me that something was wrong with me. And I didn't like that. I didn't want to be seen as the mentally ill girl. I wanted to be seen as the positive girl that's in recovery. Um, and so the moment I discharged myself, that's when things just really went up. And I also got rid of some toxic friendships that I didn't realize until then. Um, and yeah, kind of start recovery from then, really.
How do you look back at those times of your life now?
It's strange when I talk about certain incidents and even attempts in general, it feels like it was a completely different person. Like it doesn't feel like it was me, but it was. And it's really strange looking back at it.
And is it difficult to reflect back on it, do you think?
Um, it can be, but then at the same time, I think it's quite important to remember those times and remember that I'm, grateful that I did survive all of that. That I didn't end up succeeding because unfortunately a lot of my friends did, which was very hard to deal with. And everyone thought I was going to be the next one, but obviously I wasn't. I proved them all wrong. But yeah, I know it's definitely difficult to look back at some of those situations, but I still think of some of them every day pretty much. But I'm just grateful that I'm still here and I get to live the amazing life that I do now.
And even that, you mentioned friends then, like dealing with dealing with that has an impact on your mental health as well, doesn't it? It's not just, you know,
Yeah,
it's not
100%.
just the situation of whatever hardships friends were going through. Like you then feel the brunt of that too.
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of the a lot of the people that I lost, I met in these psychiatric hospitals, and it sounds really crazy, but you came to, I guess, accept that this is just how it is, in the sense of you meet these really mentally unwell people that are trying to, take their own life almost every day. There's always going to be one particular day where unfortunately they don't make it, and you have to I think it was after the fourth person I lost, I just had to kind of accept, like, there could be another one now, like, there could be another one coming soon, like, could be next week, someone could go next week. And yeah, that was really strange because you kind of become numb to it. And that sounds really weird because obviously that you've made genuine connections with these people and you were friends with them on the ward to get by, but in a few weeks they may not be here. And that was really difficult to manage.
How do you think about those people now? Not just the times we've spoke about them, but those people that you have lost that were close to you.
I still obviously look back and obviously I still remember them, but then at the same time, I guess the reason why I'm alive is a lot of those people that unfortunately haven't made it helped me during really difficult times, and I'm so, so grateful for that. So if anything, kind of getting them justice, kind of telling their stories, saying that they helped me during the difficult times and I'm still here. And I guess that also inspires other people that are still in that particular place. Like if I can make it out and if I can live the life that I'm living now, then that gives them the hope that they potentially can too.
In that moment, if you would put a snapshot of what your life is now back then, what do you think that Poppy would have said?
I generally have no idea, to be honest. I was in disbelief that I didn't think my life was ever going to become the way it has. I don't know what I would say, to be honest.
And was the trigger to all of this the disability?
Most of it was disability, but then there was a lot of childhood trauma as well. But I think because I didn't deal with that trauma, it was the disability that kicked it all off, really, I guess.
Well, Poppy, like it's inspiring to see where you are now, and obviously to hear the story too, and get quite deep into it. So I've got to say thank you for being so open, because it's
No worries.
it's hugely appreciated. We've looked back quite a lot, and I obviously want to look forward as well. You mentioned London Marathon next year. You mentioned going out to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah.
It feels like you're doing it for a bigger cause than just yourself. You're doing it for not only past Poppy, but everybody else as well that's impacted your life. When you're out there, when you are in those difficult moments in races and things like that, do you remember the hard times? Do they help you get through? Because I would imagine you're like, well, if I got through that, I can literally get through anything.
Yeah, 100%. Like when I was doing the Great South on Sunday, we had absolutely torrential downpour of rain and wind, and it was cold, and it was horrible weather. Like it's not what you want to race in. And I got to, I believe it was about 8 miles, and I was really, really struggling to get through. But in the back of my head, I just remembered where I was years ago, looked pretty much in a hospital with no hope, not able to leave, not able to see my family, not able to see my friends, just completely hopeless. And I'm like, it's just a bit of water, it's just a bit of wind. Like we're almost there. We got 2 miles to go. I think a lot of the races that I do is to kind of prove to my younger self the things that you can achieve in life, and that life is beautiful, and not to lose hope.
Again, that word hope is so important, and it's run through this conversation a lot, I think. And I think that's a beautiful message to be sharing. And I think something that you do really well, sharing that hope, sharing the fact that you can do it despite any situations. And yeah, is that a message that you want to put out there as much as possible?
100%, 100%. The way I was 3 years ago, like I say, literally no leave, couldn't see anyone, couldn't go outside for fresh air properly, like in a garden that's locked, and it was awful, but there's obviously a lot of people that struggle with their mental health, and they potentially lock themselves in their house, and their depression is so severe. And I guess I want to tell them and show them that you can make it out. Like, mine was a very long process. It took me 4 years to become stable again and to actually start enjoying my life rather than not enjoying my life. But it's all hope, really, isn't it? It just depends on what you put out there. And that's why I put everything out there that's good, that's bad, that's ugly. That's why I show the bad times and to where I am now, because I made it out, and hopefully that can inspire someone else that's in the same situation. Well, right now it's tough and it's difficult, and I don't want to leave the house, but look at what she's done. Look at everything she's achieved. Potentially they could too.
And I'm sure as well, like, I think we need to touch on the words, the bad times, because I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure there are still bad times, and you are this very positive person that's moving forward with their life, but I'm sure days are difficult sometimes. So on those days, how do you remind yourself to look towards the light and not kind of fall back to those dark times?
I go by a certain quote, which is, it's a bad day, not a bad life. So I could be having the worst day possible, but I don't need to take action because I'm having a bad day. I don't need to try and potentially harm myself or put myself in a dangerous situation because it's a bad day. Because for all you know, it's a bad day in that moment, but tomorrow could be the best day ever. So don't go out there with intent when you're having a bad day, because tomorrow could be the best day ever.
And I think it's important as well is, to ask for help if you need it, right? That is so important, and that's such a important message to put across, because we can't always do it on our own, can we? Like, it's a very lonely life if you're trying to do everything by yourself. So I would imagine over the years, lots of people have helped you as well get through difficult times. So if anybody's listened to this and is struggling, I'm sure that message of asking for help is one that you'd see as paramount too.
100%. A lot of the situations that I was in, if I didn't call my friend or my family member or even the emergency services myself, potentially wouldn't be here right now. And a lot of people think that it's a weakness to ask for help, but if anything, it's a strength, because it's you calling out, something's wrong, I need to have some support to get through this moment. And that's perfectly normal, and that's okay. Like, you shouldn't put yourself in a position where you don't want to get support and you don't want to get help because you're scared to ask for help, or you feel like you're going to be judged if you ask for help, because if anything, it will make you stronger as a person.
Have you ever felt scared to ask for help?
Thousands of times. There were situations where I would get shouted at by my social worker. I got shouted at every time I'd put myself in a dangerous situation, because she said, call me if you're going to do anything. And I called her several times and there was no response. So I went ahead and did something. And then she found out and had a go at me. And I think from that, I got to a point where I didn't want to ask for help. I was too scared to. So there was many, many times where I didn't. But I was grateful that people were there to help in that moment.
And I think, again, like, going back to your social presence now, I think sharing your story is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And I know you are doing that online, because it's a story that is obviously individual to you, but I'm sure parts of it will be incredibly relatable to a lot of different people. And look, Poppy, you've been through a hell of a lot, haven't you? So I think there is going to be that relatability to a lot of people. And if you could go back and say something to yourself in those difficult positions, I said take a snapshot of you and put it back there, but maybe just words, like what would you say to her, and what would you say to the person that's going through something similar right now?
Don't lose hope. Hold on, because things are going to get better.
Yeah, I think the things are going to get better, but they only get better if you take steps towards that, don't they?
100%. I mean, for years, I didn't want to do anything really with recovery wise, and people were telling me, you need to do this, you need to do that, and you need to stop, putting yourself in these situations. And I didn't want to listen. I was, I didn't want to listen. And that was my mindset for 4 years. But come to think of it now, if you really truly want to change and you really want to become a better person yourself and start recovery, it has to come from within you, because a million people could tell you to do something, but whether you're going to listen to them or not is a whole different matter. It has to come from you. And that's when you can start recovery truly.
And we've talked about the London Marathon, which I'm sure you're incredibly excited about. I know you're excited about it. I can see it on your face. You're excited about it. For anybody listening, every time we mention it, Poppy's like beaming. Is there any other races, anything that you want to do in the future, things that you're looking forward to? I'm gathering already. I'm sure there are probably a lot of goals, but is there anything that kind of sticks out?
I want to take on a challenge.
Okay.
Don't ask me what the challenge is, because I haven't figured that out yet. I've got a few friends who have done Land's End to St John O'Groats in their wheelchairs, and I'm very tempted to take that challenge on. But I want to do something big that no one's ever done before in a wheelchair. But like I say, I don't know what that is yet. I'm still yet to figure that out. But I want to be the first person to complete it. And I want it to get everywhere, like news, media, the lot. But I haven't figured out what that is yet. I also want to get I want to do all the majors, all the major marathons. But it's just I want to get to a level where a big brand will recognize me, for example. And then I don't have to worry about all the costs of all the races. Because if I had the money, I would do them all in a heartbeat. But it's not possible. So yeah, getting recognized by a big brand and working with them is also a big dream of mine as well.
And we started with that phrase, anchor or wings, because I saw that and I just thought it was so impactful. And I think throughout this conversation, we've proved that for you at this point, it is your wings and not your anchor. That's the way you look at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so admirable. And for anybody that is going through a similar situation right now, Poppy, and is struggling, is there any final words that you'd say to them?
Like I say, don't lose hope. Keep fighting, because things are going to get better soon. You just got to hold on, because the light's coming at the end of the tunnel.